Housekeeper Irene Valencia worked hard to give her daughter a future. She had no family, no partner, no one. Little did she know the person she trusted most was the one causing her little Elsie the most harm. And the truth only came to light when the millionaire Henry Velasquez, who never meddled in anyone's life, found something hidden in the little girl's tiny shoe. From that moment on, nothing would be the same. Our stories have traveled far. Where are you watching from today? Share with us in the comments. Irene Valencia knew she was about to lose her job. That Tuesday morning when Donna Sorrentino knocked on her door, saying she couldn't watch Elsie, the housekeeper's heart nearly stopped. Taking the baby to her boss's mansion was far too risky, but the alternative was worse missing work and being fired. The alarm hadn't even rung when Irene woke up in her small Bronx apartment. The air was heavy, thick with that typical New York City humidity before dawn. She got up slowly, trying not to make a sound, and went to the improvised crib in the corner of the room. Elsie was sleeping, but her little face was too pale, her lips slightly parted, as if breathing was an effort. "My God, what's wrong, my baby?" Irene whispered, touching the infant's forehead. She didn't have a fever, but something wasn't right. Ever since she'd started working as a full-time housekeeper at Henry Velasquez's mansion, Irene had been trying to get a spot in the neighborhood's community daycare. Every month it was the same story, huge lines, endless paperwork, and always that heart-wrenching answer. "Come back next month, ma'am. The waiting list is enormous." With no other option, Irene began paying Donna, her next-door neighbor, to watch Elsie. It wasn't cheap. $100 a week was a good chunk of what she earned cleaning the mansion, but it was the only solution since the child's father had disappeared without a trace, taking any hope of help with him. When Donna showed up that morning, it was still dark. Irene was preparing a bottle when she heard the hurried knocks on the door. "Donna, you scared me. Is something wrong?" The neighbor walked in without waiting for an invitation, her eyes avoiding Irene's. "Look, Irene, I can't watch Elsie today. Something urgent came up, you know how it is." "What do you mean, Donna? You didn't say anything yesterday." I know, but it was really last minute. My sister just called this morning. I need to sort out a problem over in Queens." Irene felt desperation rise in her throat. "Donna, for God's sake, I have no one to leave the baby with. If I miss work today, Mr. Velasquez will fire me." "I'm sorry, dear, but there's nothing I can do. I have to go." And she left, leaving Irene alone with her problem. The housekeeper looked at the baby, who was starting to wake up with a low, almost inaudible whimper. It was the kind of cry that broke your heart precisely because it was so restrained, as if Elsie knew it was no use. "It's okay, my love. Mommy's here." But nothing was okay. Irene picked up the baby and felt how limp she was with no energy. The brown eyes that once sparkled now seemed dull, fixed on some distant point only she could see. "You're tired, aren't you, my baby? It's just tiredness." At least that's what Irene wanted to believe. Working alone, taking care of a baby without help, sleeping 4 hours a night at most. Maybe Elsie was just feeling the effects of all that exhaustion. At 6:30 a.m., Irene left the apartment with the baby in her arms and a bag full of diapers, bottles, and toys. The subway and bus journey to the Upper East Side took nearly 2 hours. Elsie slept the whole time, her heavy little head against her mother's shoulder. When they arrived at the mansion, the electronic gate opened with a low hum. Irene took a deep breath. The house was immense, all white, with a garden that looked like something out of a magazine. She had been working there for 8 months, and still felt out of place every time she walked in. "Please, God, don't let Mr. Henry see Elsie right away." Irene entered through the back door straight into the service area. She made a pallet on the floor with a cushion surrounded it with some clean cloths, and placed the baby there along with her colorful plastic toys. "You stay here and be a good girl, okay? My love, Mommy's going to be working right nearby." Elsie didn't respond, just stared at the ceiling with that vacant expression that had become increasingly common in recent days. Irene started cleaning the kitchen, but couldn't concentrate. Every minute she would stop to look at her daughter. Elsie was too quiet for a 1.5-year-old. That's when she heard firm steps in the hallway. Henry Velasquez appeared at the kitchen door wearing black slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with the serious demeanor of someone always thinking about business. His dark eyes met Irene's first, then drifted down to the baby on the floor. "Good morning, Irene." "Good morning, Mr. Velasquez." Her voice came out trembling. "I apologize for bringing the baby, but the person who watches her couldn't today, and I had no one else to leave her with." Henry raised a hand, stopping the avalanche of explanations. "It's fine." He approached slowly and knelt beside Elsie. The baby turned her head towards him, but showed no reaction. She didn't smile, didn't reach out her arms, didn't do anything. "Is she okay?" The question was quiet, but carried a genuine concern that surprised Irene. "She is, sir. She's just a quiet baby, never any trouble." Henry lightly touched Elsie's little hand. It was cold. He looked at Irene with an expression the housekeeper couldn't decipher. "Are you sure?" And in that moment, with those 3 simple words, Irene felt that there was something very wrong with little Elsie. Throughout the morning, Irene tried to stick to her usual routine, but her eyes constantly returned to Elsie. The baby was different, and the more time passed, the more obvious it became. It wasn't just tiredness, it was something deeper, more frightening. "Elsie, come to Mommy. Come on." Irene picked her daughter up and carried her to the living room, where there was more space. She spread some toys on the soft rug, those colorful blocks Elsie used to love. But the baby just sat there, her body leaning to one side as if she didn't have the strength to sit up straight. One little arm propped her up against the sofa. Her head drooped forward. Her eyes were open, but empty. "What is it, my baby? Do you want to eat?" Irene rushed to the kitchen and came back with little pieces of banana. "Look, your favorite fruit." Elsie looked at the banana, then at her mother, and then slowly turned her face away. She didn't even try to take it. "Elsie, please eat something." Irene's voice started to tremble. "You've barely eaten anything since yesterday." The baby just let out a soft moan, almost a sigh. It wasn't a normal cry. It was the sound of someone who was suffering, but didn't even have the energy to complain. Irene sat on the floor next to her daughter and began to sing softly, a lullaby that always calmed Elsie. But today the music didn't work. Elsie rested her head on her mother's lap and closed her eyes, her breathing heavy and labored. "You have a cold, don't you?" "It's just a little cold," Irene repeated to herself, trying to believe her own words. "Tomorrow, you'll be better." That's when Henry passed through the living room on his way to his office. He stopped at the door, observing the scene. Irene didn't see him at first, too busy trying to get her daughter to drink some water. "Irene!" She turned, startled. "Mr. Velasquez, I'm sorry, I'll get back to work. It's just that she's a little... It's not that." He entered the room, his hands in his pockets. "The baby is breathing strangely." "What do you mean?" Henry knelt again, this time closer. His eyes, trained to spot details in spreadsheets and contracts, were now focused on Elsie's subtle movements. The child's breathing was slow, heavy, as if each inhalation required conscious effort. "She's always been like this." "No, sir. I mean, lately she's been more tired, but I thought it was because she's growing, you know." Henry didn't answer, just kept watching. Elsie tried to use the sofa arm to pull herself up, but slipped and fell sideways. Irene quickly caught her, her heart racing. "Careful, my baby." The baby didn't cry, just lay there, her eyes half closed, as if she were losing a battle against sleep. "How long has she been like this?" Henry's voice was calm, but there was a hidden urgency in it. Irene thought. 3-4 days, maybe. But it wasn't this bad. She woke up worse today. "And have you taken her to a doctor?" Irene lowered her eyes, shame burning her cheeks. "I don't have health insurance, sir, and the public health clinic is always packed. When I manage to get an appointment, it takes weeks." Henry ran a hand through his hair, thinking. He wasn't a father, had never been close to children, but something about this baby bothered him deeply. The way she moved, or rather didn't move. The way her eyes seemed disconnected from the world around her. "Has she eaten today?" "I tried giving her banana a bottle, even that little cookie she loves, but she doesn't want anything." "And yesterday?" Irene hesitated. "Donna said she ate well when she was with her, but when I picked Elsie up at night, she was already asleep. I thought she was just tired from playing." "Donna is the neighbor who watches her." "Yes, sir. She stays with Elsie while I work here." Henry stood up. Something wasn't adding up, but he couldn't pinpoint what. "Irene, I'm going to be honest with you. This child is not well. This isn't normal tiredness." "But what could it be, sir?" The desperation in Irene's voice was real. "She doesn't have a fever. She's not coughing." "I don't know, but I think you should take her to a hospital. Today." "I can't afford a private hospital, Mr. Velasquez." He was silent for a moment. "Then we'll go to the public hospital's ER. I'll take you." Irene's eyes widened. "You don't have to do that, sir." "I know I don't have to, but I'm going to." Before Irene could answer, Henry's phone rang. It was an urgent call, an important client. He answered, stepping away. Meanwhile, Elsie began to slide down the rug again, her body limp. Irene picked her up, rocking her gently. "It's okay, my love. Mommy will take care of you." But Elsie just cried that quiet, restrained cry that seemed to say that no, nothing was okay. And for the first time in days, Irene allowed true fear to enter her heart. What if it wasn't just tiredness? What if it was something serious? What if she was losing her daughter without even knowing why? Henry hung up the phone and turned his attention back to the mother and baby. "I'm canceling my afternoon meetings. When you finish here, we're going to the hospital." Irene just nodded, silent tears streaming down her face. And Elsie in her mother's arms continued to fight an enemy that neither of them could see. It was almost 11 a.m. when the mansion's doorbell rang. Irene was in the backyard hanging up laundry. Elsie was sleeping on a blanket in the guest room. The baby was so still she looked like an abandoned doll. Henry answered the intercom from his office. "Who is it?" The voice on the other end was female, nervous. "Good morning. It's Donna. I came to bring a little outfit of Elsie's that was left at my place." Irene, who was hanging a sheet, heard her neighbor's name and ran to the gate. "Donna, what are you doing here?" The neighbor was outside holding a plastic bag. Her smile was forced, her eyes restless. "Hi, Irene. So I found that little pink onesie of Elsie's at my place and thought I'd bring it over before you needed it." "Oh, you couldn't have waited for me to get home." "Oh, but I was just passing by. You know I had to come to the Upper East Side to take care of something." Irene hesitated. Something about the story didn't make sense. Donna had never come to the mansion before, and the Upper East Side was way too far from the Bronx to be on the way. "Okay, let me get it." "Can I just come in for a minute? I need to use the bathroom. The trip was long." Irene looked back, uncertain. Henry had been clear about not having visitors during work hours, but it was just for a minute. "All right, but you have to be quick." Donna entered, her eyes scanning every corner of the mansion, the marble floors, the glass-railed staircase, the expensive paintings on the walls. She tried to hide her awe, but couldn't completely conceal it. Wow, what a beautiful house. You work in a place like this every day. Yeah, the bathroom is over there on the left. But Donna didn't go straight to the bathroom. She walked slowly, peeking into open doorways, looking for something. And Elsie, where is she? She's sleeping in the guest room. Why? Oh, just curious. Wanted to see how she's doing. Irene was about to answer when Henry appeared at the top of the stairs. He descended slowly, his eyes fixed on the unknown visitor. Irene, who is this? Sorry, Mr. Velasquez. This is Donna, the neighbor who watches Elsie. She came to drop off an outfit and asked to use the bathroom. Henry studied Donna carefully. She avoided his gaze, nervously fiddling with the strap of her blouse. Good morning. Good morning, sir. Sorry to bother you. I'm leaving now. The bathroom is that way. Henry pointed, but didn't take his eyes off her. Donna nodded and went down the hall, but instead of going into the bathroom, she stopped at the guest room door. She glanced around quickly. Irene was heading back to the yard, and Henry had gone back up to his office. Donna's heart was pounding. She entered the room and closed the door softly. There was an armchair in the corner and a queen-sized bed where Elsie was sleeping. She pulled a small vial from her pants pocket. It was a medicine bottle with a screw-on cap and a clear liquid inside. Her hands were trembling as she tried to open it. Come on, sweetie, time for your little medicine, she said as she approached the baby. Donna was shaking so much that the vial slipped from her hands and disappeared onto the floor. No, 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 my God, where is it? Where did it fall? She repeated, searching for the vial. That's when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Donna froze. Panic rose in her throat. If someone saw her with that vial, she'd be lost. Everything would be lost. The footsteps got closer. There was no time to think. Donna looked around desperately, but couldn't find the vial. Irene opened the door carrying a laundry basket. Donna, I thought you were in the bathroom. Oh, I just came in to check on Elsie. Donna laughed, but the sound was fake. I'll use the bathroom now and be on my way. Irene watched her strangely, but said nothing. Donna went into the bathroom, locked the door, and leaned against it, her heart still racing. She looked at her own hands. They were still shaking. So stupid, she whispered, splashing cold water on her face. Outside, Henry came back down the stairs. Something was bothering him. The presence of that woman in his house felt wrong, out of place. He didn't believe the story about the forgotten outfit. When Donna came out of the bathroom, Henry was waiting in the living room. Did you take the bus? Donna blinked, confused by the question. Yes, I did, sir. Why? Just curious. It's a long way from the Bronx to here. It is, but it was worth it to bring Elsie's little outfit. Henry nodded slowly, but his eyes said he wasn't convinced. Is the baby all right when she's with you? She is. She's calm, no trouble at all, and she eats well. Donna hesitated for just a fraction of a second, but it was enough for Henry to notice. Yes, she eats. Sometimes she's a little lazy, but overall she eats just fine. I see. Henry crossed his arms. And do you care for any other children besides Elsie? I watch one other, my cousin's son, but it's just the two of them. Nothing I can't handle. Henry just looked at her in silence. The discomfort in the air was almost physical. Donna shifted from one foot to the other, clutching her purse tightly. Well, I should be going. Thanks for letting me use the bathroom. You're welcome. Irene walked Donna to the gate. When the neighbor left, Henry stood in the living room deep in thought. Something was wrong, very wrong, and he was determined to find out what. Donna had left the mansion in a hurry, but her mind was still stuck in that room. The plan had gone wrong. She was supposed to have given Elsie the medicine. but Henry's presence had interfered. Now the vial was hidden in there, a ticking time bomb that could go off at any moment. Meanwhile, Irene picked Elsie up. The baby was awake, but her eyes remained dull, unfocused. "Come on, my baby. Let's try to eat something again." She took Elsie to the kitchen and prepared some fruit puree. Mashed banana with grated apple, the girl's favorite. But when she brought the spoon to Elsie's mouth, the baby turned her head away. "Please, Elsie, just one little spoonful." The girl opened her mouth slowly, more out of obedience than desire. She swallowed the puree with difficulty, her eyes closing immediately afterward. "You're sleepy again, but you just woke up, my love." Henry walked into the kitchen at that moment carrying a folder of documents. He stopped when he saw the scene. "She only ate one spoonful. She doesn't want any more." He approached, observing the baby. Elsie was sitting on Irene's lap, but her body was sliding to the side as if she had no strength to stay upright. "Irene, I'm not a doctor, but this isn't normal." "I know, Mr. Velasquez, I know." Her voice was thick with unshed tears. "But I don't know what to do. I don't know what's wrong with her." Henry pulled up a chair and sat in front of them. "When Donna watches Elsie is the baby like this, too," Irene thought. "Donna always says she sleeps a lot, says she's a quiet child who doesn't cause trouble. And you think that's normal, a 1.5-year-old who causes no trouble at all?" Irene looked at her daughter, really looked perhaps for the first time in days. Elsie was too quiet, too obedient. She didn't cry, didn't complain, didn't demand attention. For an exhausted single mother, that had seemed like a blessing. But now with Henry pointing it out, it seemed like an alarm bell. "I thought she was just calm, you know. Some kids are just born that way." "Some are," Henry agreed. "But there's something else going on here. I can feel it." He got up and went to the window, looking out at the garden. His business instincts, trained to identify problems and find solutions, were activated. There were missing pieces to this puzzle. Donna was acting strange today. Irene looked at him surprised. Strange how nervous rushed, and her story about the outfit didn't make sense. Why not? Because who crosses all of New York City just to return a baby's onesie? Henry turned to her. And another thing she said, she was just passing through, but the Upper East Side is nowhere near any route from the Bronx. Irene had never thought of that. But why would she lie? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Just then Elsie started to cry. It wasn't a loud cry, but that soft whimper, almost a lament. Irene rocked her, singing softly, but nothing seemed to help. Is she in pain? Henry asked. I don't know. She can't tell me. Henry took out his phone. I'm calling a friend of mine who's a pediatrician. I'm going to describe the symptoms and see what she says. He left the kitchen and went to his office, closing the door. He dialed the number and waited. After 3 rings, a female voice answered. Henry, what a surprise. Hi, Marcia. Sorry to bother you, but I need your help. It's urgent. His tone made the doctor immediately serious. What happened? There's a baby here, 1.5, who's showing strange symptoms. Extreme drowsiness, lack of appetite. A limp body, no energy to play. No fever, no cough, just this profound lethargy. Marcia was silent for a moment. How long? The mother said it started 3 or 4 days ago, but it got much worse today. It could be a number of things, Henry, from a virus to something more serious. That child needs to be examined. I know. I'm taking her to the hospital this afternoon, but there's something else that's bothering me. What is it? The person who watches her during the day was here today, acted strangely nervous. And the baby seems worse specifically on the days she's with this woman. Marcia took a deep breath on the other end of the line. Henry, What are you suggesting? I don't know. I'm trying to understand, but my gut tells me something is wrong. Look, I don't want to alarm you, but I've seen cases of children being sedated by caregivers. Medications to make them sleep, to keep them quiet. Henry's blood ran cold. Is that possible? Unfortunately, yes. More common than people think. If the baby is lethargic with no energy, it could be a sign of sedation. You need to take her to the hospital now, Henry. Don't wait until this afternoon. Okay, thank you, Marcia. He hung up and stood there, processing the information. Sedation. Someone was drugging Elsie to keep her quiet. The idea was so horrible he could barely accept it, but it made sense. All of the baby's behavior made sense. He rushed back to the kitchen. Irene was still holding Elsie. The baby was practically passed out from sleep. Irene, we need to go to the hospital now. Now, but you said this afternoon. I changed my mind. Get Elsie's things. Let's go. His tone left no room for argument. Irene stood up, her heart racing. Did something happen? Henry looked at the baby in her arms. Elsie was pale, her lips slightly bluish. We're about to find out. Henry drove in silence, his hands firm on the steering wheel, but his mind was racing. In the back seat, Irene held Elsie against her chest, whispering words of comfort that didn't seem to reach the baby. The private hospital was 20 minutes away, but every second felt like an eternity. Is she breathing okay? Henry asked, glancing in the rearview mirror. Irene put her ear to her daughter's chest. She is, but it's too slow. Hang in there. We're almost there. But before they left the mansion, something had happened. Something that changed everything. Henry had gone to the guest room to get a sweater for Elsie. The baby was cold, shivering slightly. While he was looking in the closet, a shirt fell to the floor, and he bent down to pick it up. That's when he saw one of Elsie's little pink shoes under the bed, half hidden. Henry reached down, picked up the shoe, and felt something inside a small but distinct weight. Henry turned the tiny shoe upside down, and a minuscule object fell into his hand. It was a glass vial, no bigger than his thumb, with a screw-on cap and a clear liquid inside. His heart pounded. He held the vial up to the light. There was a small label with tiny letters. Henry brought it closer to read, and felt the blood freeze in his veins. 5 mg/ml. Restricted use prescription only. Henry knew what this medication was. He'd seen it in hospitals in the charts of executives who had severe anxiety attacks. It was a powerful sedative used to calm adults in extreme situations. And here it was hidden in the shoe of a 1.5-year-old baby. My God, he whispered, clenching the vial in his hand. That's when it all clicked. Elsie's lethargy, Donna's behavior, the strange visit, the baby being too quiet, sleeping too much with no energy for anything. Someone was drugging this child, and Donna had been in that room today. Donna, who watched Elsie every day. Donna, who had lied about the reason for her visit. Donna, who had acted nervous and rushed. Henry ran down the stairs, holding the vial as if it were a bomb. Irene! Irene, where are you? She appeared from the kitchen, startled. What is it, Mr. Velasquez? He showed her the vial. Have you ever seen this? Irene looked at it, confused. No. What is it? It's a sedative, a strong medication used on adults, and I found it hidden inside Elsie's shoe. The color drained from Irene's face. What do you mean I've never given her any medicine? I know it wasn't you, Henry said slowly, trying to stay calm. But someone did, and I think I know who. Irene staggered, having to lean against the wall. Donna, are you saying that Donna... I'm saying your neighbor has been drugging your daughter and she's probably been doing it for days. Irene couldn't answer. just looked at Elsie sleeping in her arms, completely oblivious to the horror being revealed. Tears began to stream down her face, silent and heavy. "But why? Why would she do that?" "I don't know, but we're going to find out." Henry took out his phone and took pictures of the vial. "First we get Elsie to the hospital. Then we deal with Donna." That's why they were now in the car, racing against time. Henry drove with precision, running yellow lights, taking shortcuts through side streets. In the back, Irene cried softly, holding her daughter as if someone might snatch her away. "I trusted her, Mr. Velasquez. I left my daughter with that woman every day." "You had no way of knowing." "But I should have noticed. I'm her mother. How did I not see that my own daughter was being drugged? Drugged! That's what was happening. Elsie was being slowly drugged, day after day, by a person Irene trusted. You were working trying to support your daughter alone. Don't blame yourself." But Irene couldn't stop. The guilt, the anger, the fear, all mixed in an uncontrollable whirlwind. What if she doesn't survive? What if this drug has caused permanent damage? Henry didn't answer because he didn't know. He had called Marcia again on the way, describing the medication. Her response had been clear and terrifying. That medication in a small child can cause serious complications. If she's been on this for days, Henry, that baby is in real danger. He sped up a little more. The hospital appeared on the corner, a modern building of glass and concrete. Henry pulled up to the pediatric emergency entrance, not even bothering with the no parking zone. He ran to open the back door and helped Irene get out with Elsie. "Let's go." They went through the automatic doors. The reception area was clean, organized, with nurses in white bustling about. Henry went straight to the desk. "I need a pediatrician now. It's an emergency." The receptionist looked at him, then at Irene and the baby. "What's the problem?" "Suspected drug poisoning. The child is 1.5. The nurse's training kicked in. She picked up the internal phone and pressed a button. "Code yellow at reception. Pediatric patient. Possible poisoning." In less than a minute, 2 nurses and a doctor appeared. They took Elsie from Irene and placed her on a small gurney. The baby didn't even react, her body completely limp. "When did she ingest the medication?" the doctor asked, already checking her vital signs. "We don't know for sure." Henry showed him the vial, "but we suspect it's been administered daily in small doses for the last 3 or 4 days. The doctor took the vial, read the label, and his face grew serious. "Get her to room 2 now." They rushed off with Elsie. Irene tried to follow, but a nurse gently stopped her. "Ma'am, you need to stay here and fill out the paperwork." "But my daughter, the doctors will take care of her, I promise." Irene collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Henry sat beside her, still holding the damned vial. He looked at that small, almost insignificant bottle and thought about how something so tiny could cause so much harm. And then he thought of Donna, of how she had entered the mansion today, how she had lied. He didn't know what drove her to do it. He didn't know if it was malice, negligence, or desperation. But one thing he knew for sure. Donna Sorrentino would pay for what she did. The hospital waiting room was quiet, except for the muffled sounds of medical equipment and distant conversations. Irene sat with her hands clasped, her eyes fixed on the door through which Elsie had disappeared. Henry was on the phone, speaking quietly but firmly. "Yes, I need you to find everything on her. Full name Donna Sorrentino. Lives in the Bronx. I want to know where she works, if she has a record, if she watches other children. Everything." On the other end of the line, a private investigator was taking notes quickly. "How much time do I have?" 2 hours max, and send me her exact address." And Henry hung up and sat back down next to Irene. She looked at him with eyes red from crying. "Are you investigating Donna?" "I am. I need to understand why she did this, and I need proof before I call the police." Irene shook her head. I can't believe it. Donna was always so attentive, so careful with Elsie. How could she do something like this? Henry looked at the vial he was still holding. He had put it in a small plastic bag to preserve any fingerprints. People do terrible things for reasons even they don't sometimes understand. At that moment, the doctor came out of the emergency room. Irene shot up her heart in her throat. How is she? The doctor removed his mask, revealing a tired but calm face. She's stable. Her vital signs are improving. Irene nearly fell to her knees in relief. Is she going to be okay? She is, but it was a close call. If you had waited a few more hours, the situation could have been irreversible. Henry closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. They had made it in time. Barely, but they had. How long will she need to be hospitalized? He asked. At least 48 hours for monitoring. We want to be sure there's no neurological or cardiac damage. Run every test necessary. Money is no object. The doctor nodded and turned to Irene. You can see her now, but she's sleeping. A natural sleep this time. Irene entered the room with trembling steps. Elsie was in a small bed with monitors connected to her fragile little body, but for the first time in days, her face was serene. The sickly pallor was gone, as was the expression of silent suffering. Irene held her daughter's tiny hand and started to cry again, but this time they were tears of relief. Henry stayed outside, giving them their moment. His phone vibrated. It was a message from the investigator. Donna Sorrentino, 38, works as an informal caregiver off the books, cares for 2 other children besides Elsie. One is 3, a cousin's son. The other is 2, a neighbor's daughter. No criminal record, but there's a dismissed complaint from 2 years ago filed by a mother who alleged negligence. It wasn't fully investigated due to lack of evidence. Henry read the message carefully. 3 children. Donna was watching 3 children at once, and apparently she was using sedatives to keep them manageable. Another message came through. Address 423 Palm Street, Apartment 12, the Bronx. Henry put his phone away and turned his attention back to the room. Through the glass window, he saw Irene singing softly to Elsie. The scene was both beautiful and painful. He thought about his own life. He had never married, never had children. He had dedicated everything to business, building a financial empire that gave him power, but not affection. And now, looking at that mother and baby, he felt something he didn't expect. Protectiveness, a deep, visceral instinct to protect these 2 people. The doctor approached him. Mr. Velasquez, can I have a word with you for a moment? Of course. They stepped aside. The doctor spoke in a low voice, almost a whisper. I'm going to have to file a report on this case. It's mandatory in situations like this. Situations like this, Henry repeated. Yes. Administering controlled substances to a child without a prescription is considered abuse. The police will be automatically notified when I submit the report. How long until they arrive? Probably a few hours. They'll want to speak with the mother, understand what happened. Henry nodded. All right, I'll be here. The doctor went back to the emergency room, and Henry was left alone with his thoughts. He knew he had to act fast. If the police arrived before he got more information, Donna might destroy evidence. Other children might still be in danger. He took out his phone again and called the investigator. I need you to go to Donna's building. Watch from a distance. Let me know if she leaves or if anyone arrives. You got it. Henry hung up and checked the time. It was 2 p.m. He had a few hours before the police showed up. A few hours to uncover the whole truth. Irene came out of the room, wiping her eyes. Would you like to see Elsie? I would. Henry went in and approached the bed. Elsie looked so small there, so fragile. He gently touched her forehead. It was warm, a normal temperature finally. "Hi, little one," he whispered. "You gave everyone quite a scare." As if she had heard him, Elsie wiggled her fingers. She didn't wake up, but it was a natural, healthy movement. Henry smiled. "I'm going to find out who did this to you, and I'm going to make them pay." Outside, his phone vibrated again. Another message from the investigator. And what it said made Henry's blood boil. "Just spoke with one of Donna's neighbors. She said she's heard children crying from the apartment, but that it always stops suddenly, as if someone is forcing them to be quiet." Henry gripped his phone tightly. It wasn't just Elsie. Other children were being drugged, silenced, mistreated. And Donna had been doing this long enough to perfect her method. He left the room and went to Irene. "I need to go take care of something. You stay here with Elsie. Don't leave her side." "Where are you going?" Henry looked at her with a determination that left no room for argument. "I'm going to get justice." Henry knew he couldn't go to Donna's house alone. It would be reckless and possibly dangerous. Instead, he had a better plan, one that would ensure the truth came out without anyone being able to hide it. He called Irene, who was still at the hospital with Elsie. "Irene, I need you to do something for me." "Anything, Mr. Velasquez." "Call Donna. Make up any excuse. Tell her Elsie has a fever and you need her to come to the mansion to pick up some medicine." Irene hesitated. "You want her to come back to the mansion?" "I do. And trust me, I know what I'm doing." Irene took a deep breath and agreed. A few minutes later, she called Donna. "Donna, hi, it's Irene." On the other end, Donna's voice sounded surprised. "Irene, is everything okay? Is Elsie all right?" "She has a fever that won't break. I brought her to the hospital, but I forgot her thermometer and the medicine I used to bring her fever down. Can you stop by the mansion and get it for me? It's in the guest room drawer." There was a pause. "Oh, of course. I can go. How soon do you need it?" "As soon as possible. I'm worried." "Okay. I'll head over now." Irene hung up and immediately called to let Henry know. "She's coming." "Excellent. I'll take care of the rest." Henry drove back to the mansion, his heart pounding. He had set everything up. He installed a small camera in the guest room, hidden behind a picture frame. And then he waited. Donna arrived 40 minutes later. Henry watched her on the security monitor as she rang the doorbell. He opened the gate remotely, but didn't go to the door. He let her enter on her own using the spare key Irene had told her where to find for emergencies. "Irene, are you here?" Donna called out, entering slowly. Silence. She walked down the hall, her eyes searching. She went straight to the guest room. Henry watched everything on the camera, recording every second. Donna entered the room and closed the door behind her. Her eyes went immediately to the space under the bed. She got on her knees and searched for the vial. Nothing. Panic washed over her face. "No, no, no," she whispered, searching desperately. "Where is it?" She began to search the room, opening drawers, looking under furniture. She was desperate, sweating, her hands shaking. That's when Henry entered the room. "Looking for this?" He held up the vial in the plastic bag. Donna froze. The blood drained from her face. "Mr. Velasquez, I didn't know you were here." "I know you didn't." He closed the door behind him. "But I am. And now you're going to tell me everything." "Tell you what, I don't know what you're talking about." Henry held up the vial. "This was inside Elsie's shoe. And you just came in here looking for it. Don't try to deny it." Donna tried to keep her composure, but was clearly losing it. "I came to get a thermometer for Irene." "Liar. I had Irene call you here. It was a test, and you failed." Donna's legs gave out. She leaned against the dresser, her face contorting. "I can explain." "Then explain." But Donna couldn't speak. She just stared at the vial at Henry at the door, like a cornered animal looking for an escape. "Do you know what's in this vial?" Henry asked, his voice cold. "A sedative used in hospitals to calm adults in severe crises. And you were giving it to a 1.5-year-old baby." "I didn't want to hurt her." Donna burst out, tears starting to fall. "I just wanted her to be quiet. Quiet." Henry took a step forward. "You almost ended this child's life. She's in the hospital right now being monitored because you decided to drug her." Donna covered her face with her hands, sobbing. "I didn't know it would get so bad. I only gave her 1 drop just to make her sleep a little." "Why? Why would you do this?" "Because I couldn't handle it," Donna screamed, her voice breaking. "I watched 3 children at the same time, Mr. Velasquez. 3. All of them crying, wanting attention, making a mess. There was no way I could handle it alone." Henry felt anger rise in his chest. "So you drugged them so you wouldn't have to actually take care of them? It wasn't like that. I did take care of them, but there were too many and I had to work from home too. I do sewing cleaning. How was I supposed to do all that with 3 kids screaming, 'You should have given the children back to their mothers. You should have said you couldn't handle it.' And lose the money." Donna laughed, a bitter sound. "I need that money, sir. My husband is unemployed. My daughter is in college. I can't lose this job." Henry shook his head in disgust. "So you put the lives of 3 children at risk for money?" "It wasn't just for the money," Donna insisted. "It was because I was desperate. I didn't know what to do and the medicine worked. The kids slept, they were calm, nobody complained. Because their mothers didn't know you were drugging their children." The word fell like a bomb. Donna staggered, her legs giving way. She sank to the floor, crying uncontrollably. "I didn't want it to be like this. I just wanted everything to be easier." Henry looked at her with a mixture of rage and pity. Rage for what she did. Pity for the situation that led her to it. But pity wasn't enough to excuse the crime. "Elsie almost died because of you," he said, his voice low but firm. "And you would have kept going if I hadn't found out." Donna didn't answer, just wept. Henry took out his phone. "The police are on their way. And I have everything recorded. Your confession, your actions, everything." Donna looked up, her eyes wide. "You're turning me in?" "I am. And I'm going to make sure you pay for everything you've done." He left the room, locking the door from the outside. Donna started banging on it, pleading, but Henry didn't go back. Justice was finally being served. The police arrived 20 minutes later. 2 detectives from the Child Protective Unit accompanied by a social worker. Henry met them at the door, showing them the vial, the recording, everything. "She's locked in the guest room. She confessed everything." The older detective, a man with graying hair and a weary look, took the bag with the vial. Dear God. They went upstairs. Henry followed them, watching as they unlocked the door. Donna was sitting on the floor, her eyes red, her face swollen from crying. "Donna Sorrentino?" the detective asked. She just nodded. "You are under arrest for child abuse, illegal administration of controlled substances, and child endangerment. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." They handcuffed her and pulled her to her feet. Donna didn't resist, just let them lead her away, as if she had already given up. Before leaving, the detective turned to Henry. "You'll need to give a statement, and so will the child's mother." "I know. We'll be available." They took Donna away. Henry stood in the living room, listening to the sound of the police car driving off. Silence. Finally, silence. But the story wasn't over. The detective returned a few hours later, this time with bad news. "Mr. Velasquez, we went to Donna's apartment. We found more vials of sedatives hidden, and the other 2 children she was caring for also show signs of sedation. Henry closed his eyes. Are they okay? They're being examined now, but yes, they'll be fine. Thank God we were able to intervene in time. And their mothers, did they know? They had no idea. Just like Irene, they trusted Donna completely. Henry shook his head. How can someone do this? The detective sighed. I see it more than I'd like to, Mr. Velasquez. Desperate people make terrible choices. It doesn't justify it, but it explains it. After the detective left, Henry went back to the hospital. Irene was by Elsie's side, who was now awake. The baby was looking around curiously, her little eyes finally shining again. Mr. Velasquez? Irene stood up when she saw him enter. Donna was arrested. She was. And she won't be getting out anytime soon. Irene started crying again, but this time they were tears of relief. Thank you. Thank you for saving my daughter. Henry approached the bed. Elsie looked at him and surprisingly smiled. A small, shy, but genuine smile. Hi, little one. He touched her hand. Feeling better? Elsie squeezed his finger, and Henry felt something break inside his chest. Something he had kept locked away for years. Emotion connection. Love. She's going to be fine. The doctor entered holding a chart. All her tests came back normal. There's no permanent damage. It was a very close call, but she's going to make a full recovery. Irene collapsed into the chair, relieved. Thank God. Henry stood there, watching mother and daughter, and realized his life had changed that day. He was no longer just a wealthy businessman focused on profits and investments. He was someone who had made a difference, someone who had saved a life, and he didn't want it to end there. Donna's trial took place 3 months later. Henry was there, sitting next to Irene and Elsie. The baby, now fully recovered, was playing with a teddy bear, oblivious to the gravity of the moment. Donna entered the courtroom. Her face was thin-aged. She glanced at Irene and quickly looked away, shame weighing on her shoulders. The judge read the charges. 3 counts of child abuse, illegal administration of controlled substances, child endangerment. The list was long and devastating. Donna's lawyer tried to argue that she was under extreme financial and emotional stress, that she had no intention of hurting the children that she was just trying to survive. But the prosecutor was relentless. He showed pictures of Elsie in the hospital, nearly lifeless. He presented medical reports from the other 2 children, both with dangerous levels of sedatives in their blood. And he played the recording of Donna's confession. The sentence was harsh, 5 years in prison, plus 3 on probation, and a permanent ban on working with children. When Donna was led away, Irene squeezed Henry's hand. It's over. It's over. He nodded, but for Henry this was just the beginning of something new. In the following months, he helped Irene in ways she never imagined. He paid for a private daycare for Elsie, ensuring the baby had professional and safe care. He offered Irene a pay raise and flexible hours so she could spend more time with her daughter. But more than money, he offered his presence. He started spending more time at the mansion, not locked in his office, but in the living room, playing with Elsie, teaching her to walk, to say her first words. And Irene slowly realized she wasn't alone anymore. 2 years had passed since the day Henry found the vial in Elsie's shoe. Life had changed completely for everyone involved. Elsie, now 3½ ran across the mansion's lawn, laughing loudly as Henry chased her. "Catch me! Catch me!" she yelled, her brown curls bouncing in the wind. "I'm gonna get you!" Henry pretended to be a monster, making funny noises. Elsie shrieked with delight and hid behind Irene, who watched the scene with a smile. "Save me, Mommy." Irene picked her daughter up, laughing. I've saved you. Henry stopped in front of them, hands on his knees, feigning exhaustion. She's too fast for me. You're getting old, Henry, Irene teased. He smiled. I am. Over the past 2 years, the relationship between Henry and Irene had evolved naturally. It started with gratitude, then turned into friendship, and finally blossomed into something deeper: love, respect, partnership. They got married in a simple courthouse ceremony with Elsie as their impromptu witness. The little girl held a bouquet of flowers and kept repeating, "Mommy's pretty," making everyone laugh. Now they lived together in the mansion, but it was no longer the cold, empty house it once was. It was a home filled with laughter, scattered toys, and colorful drawings on the refrigerator. Henry had discovered that wealth wasn't in the numbers in his bank account, but in the smiles of his family. Irene had found the security and love she always deserved. "Daddy, come play dolls with me," Elsie said, pulling his hand. Henry looked at Irene, who just smiled. "Go on. Your daughter is calling you." His daughter. The word still made his heart tighten with emotion. Elsie wasn't his biological daughter, but she was his in every way that mattered, and he loved her as if she were. "Let's go, princess." They went into the house together. Irene stayed in the garden for another moment, looking up at the blue sky. She thought about everything she had been through, the desperation, the fear, the pain, and how it had all led to this moment of pure happiness. Sometimes the worst situations bring the best blessings. Inside, Henry was sitting on the floor, surrounded by dolls. Elsie was conducting an imaginary party, pouring make-believe tea into plastic cups. "This is for you, Daddy." "Thank you, sweetie." He pretended to drink, making exaggerated sounds of satisfaction. Elsie laughed that free and genuine laugh that only happy children have, and Henry realized that he had saved her life that terrible day, but she had also saved his. Because before Elsie and Irene he was alive, but he wasn't living. Now, finally, he understood what it meant to have a purpose beyond work, to have people to love and protect, to have a family. Irene came into the room and joined them on the floor. Henry put his arm around her, pulling her close. Elsie snuggled between them, holding her dolls. "I love you guys," Henry said quietly. "We love you too," Irene replied, kissing his forehead. And there, in that simple moment, surrounded by the two people he loved most in the world, Henry Velasquez found something no amount of money could buy: peace. Love, family. And that finally was more than enough. So, what did you think of the story? Leave your opinion in the comments. We love to know what you think. Don't forget to leave a like on the video to support us and to subscribe to the channel. Until next time.